Modern feminists are playing a game, and men's lives are at stake, and they know this, but they're continuing to play the game, and I'm sure that you've heard of it. It's called Oppression Olympics. Yeah, who has it worse? Statistics continue to show that men are really falling down the social ladder when it comes to education, healthcare, fuck, even life expectancy. But yet, feminists still continue to hate men while perpetuating the very thing that they're angry at men for, which is what they call toxic masculinity. And I absolutely hate that term because personally, masculinity is not toxic. The way that some people believe it has to be performed is toxic, but that in itself does not make masculinity toxic, so I'm sick of hearing it. But you know, I always hear feminists talking about how men are just so emotionally unavailable and maybe they should just take tips from us women, even though really we want to tell men that they should take empathy tips from us. Meanwhile, we do not take 2 seconds to even care to understand why men are the way that they are. We don't want to do that because then we might find out that we could be causing the issue. Before I show you Suicide Girl's video, I want to start off with this tweet that I found. Men are really in their soft girl era right now. Okay, so keep that tweet in mind about how men are finally being connected to their emotions and they're soft girls.
Have you ever tried to argue with a man who claims he's being logical, but all of his...
Why is it always these girls? Like the ones with multicolored hair, the ones at rallies that instead of using their big girl voices, they choose to bark instead. Gentlemen, if you come across a woman like this who intentionally makes her makeup look like this cat, run. No heat-seeking moisture missile. You keep that shit far away from her poo-tang.
Have you ever tried to argue with a man who claims he's being logical, but all of his logic is usually just a lack of basic empathy? What these men cite as common sense is usually just a series of social biases that they have never bothered to analyze or question. What they call being objective is usually just a subjective lack of self-awareness. These are the type of dudes who try to turn debate into a competition instead of a gathering of new information, and then they wonder why no one wants to talk to them.
Is anybody blown away by the fact that she literally just described herself? I mean, how empathetic are you? Blame men, right? I mean, over here, we like to try to treat the issue and not the gender, but feminists will look at something happening in the masses and still blame men for it, rather than looking at themselves and saying, if an entire class fails a test, is it the class's fault or is it maybe the teacher?
These men cite as common sense is usually just a series of social biases that they have never bothered to analyze or question.
Do you feel like you're proving that you have the ability to analyze and question things? Men just lack empathy. Well, do you think that there's a magical mushroom on the tip of their Willy the One-Eyed Wonder Wiener that just magically makes them that way? Because that's certainly not the case. We talk so much about how we want men to be empathetic while absolutely failing to show any empathy ourselves. I'm so sorry, but if you're somebody who has always been taught that you're not good enough and you need to just shut the fuck up, deal with everybody else's problems, and be quiet about your own, guess what? Those people aren't showing you empathy, emotional understanding, emotional maturity, and then you're gonna send them off into the world and just expect them to figure it out themselves? Are you kidding me? We don't even encourage little boys to cry, for God's sakes. We don't even encourage little boys to cry, for God's sakes. We're always saying things like, tough boys don't cry. You want to be strong. Well, you know what? Maybe he wally-whopped himself down the driveway and he needs to let a tear out about it. Because see, this narrative and basic understanding of men's emotions is just incredibly stupid. It's obvious that most of society doesn't even care to try to understand men. What bothers me the most about videos like this is that these girls always think that they're just so right. Like they're so certain of themselves. This video alone has 200,000 likes because not one woman has stopped to say, hey, just because I support women's rights doesn't mean I support their wrongs. For some reason, this is proving incredibly difficult, especially for people like SpongeBob Sweatpants. I mean, thanks so much for watching, you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you check out my Patreon and my podcast, Roma's Man Cave. You can download it on any podcast streaming platform. Thank you.
Oh, baby, no, it don't gotta be oh, baby, no, it be okay. so